fucks up your lower back didn't start in your body, but in the ancestral trauma you inherited. In the next few minutes, you're going to learn for specific ancestral movements that allow your body to release that inherited weight. And in just a few days of practice, you'll physically feel your lower back breathe again. The rigidity give way, and your posture reorganize. What few people know is that this intense pain, that deep stab that seizes the base of your back, isn't the result of poor posture or isolated physical wear and tear. It's the exact place where entire generations deposited traumas, fears, and emotional overloads that the nervous system was never able to process. Ignoring this pain keeps the body in chronic collapse, compressing tissues, retracting the breath, and preventing life from flowing with presence. If you close this video now, you'll keep carrying alone an inheritance that was never yours to sustain, and your lower back will keep asking for relief in a way no painkiller can resolve. But if you stay, you'll understand exactly why your lower back became the vault where that trauma was stored, and what to do in the body to begin to dissolve it. The lower back is not just an anatomical region, it's the pillar that holds entire inner worlds. When that pillar is compressed, the whole structure above gives way. Posture curves, breath retracts, presence crumbles. In ancient schools of body healing, masters recognized the lower spine as the point where the vibration of family history meets the density of the present body. What wasn't processed in previous generations, fear of scarcity, early responsibility, long silences, descends through the lineage and materializes as fascial compression, muscular rigidity, and visceral pain that no imaging exam can fully explain. The 4 ancestral movements you're going to learn work like somatic keys. They reopen channels that were sealed, allow the body to return to the earth the weight it can no longer sustain alone, and reorganize the inner axis so the lower back can breathe again. This isn't about stretching or strengthening isolated muscles. It's about teaching the nervous system that it's safe to release the defensive contraction it has held for years, perhaps decades. When that happens, you feel it physically. Space between the vertebrae, breath descending to the base of the spine, posture rising without effort. Alchemists saw the base of the body as the crucible where lead transforms into gold, where chronic pain meets the possibility of release. For them, the lower back and sacrum were the portal of transmutation, the place where the dense meets the subtle, where ancestral memory inscribed in tissue can be rewritten through conscious gesture. The fascia, that living web of connective tissue that envelops muscles and organs, holds memory the same way clay holds the imprint of fingers, and your lower back carries the fingerprints of all who came before you. Contemporary neuroscience reveals that the autonomic nervous system, when parked in dorsal collapse for a prolonged time, compresses the deep tissues of the lower spine as a survival strategy. Epigenetics shows that patterns of threat and emotional overload lived by previous generations altered gene expression, predisposing certain regions of the body to store chronic tension. What the ancients called the invisible weight of the lineage, somatic. Science today names as unintegrated, traumatic memory, and both point to the same place. The lower back as a transgenerational vault, waiting to be opened with the right code. What you're going to learn now aren't common physical exercises. They are somatic keys that reopen channels that have been sealed for years, perhaps generations. Each of the 4 ancestral movements operates on a distinct layer of the body. The first releases compression in the deep tissues. The second guides the breath to where the trauma fixed itself. The third reconnects the inner axis that was fragmented. And the fourth ritually returns to the earth what you no longer need to carry. Together, they form a release code that the body recognizes immediately, even if the mind doesn't yet fully understand. The first movement works directly on the lumbar fascia, that web of connective tissue that wrapped the trauma in layers of protection and rigidity. Lie on your back on the floor, knees bent, feet planted on the ground, arms at your sides. Let the full weight of your torso rest. Don't force anything. Don't contract anything. This position already signals to the nervous system that there's no threat, that it's safe to begin letting go. Now, with minimal, almost imperceptible movements, tilt the pelvis forward and back, as if you were drawing a very small arc with your lower back. This isn't a strength exercise, it's an invitation for the fascia to realize it can take up more space. As you make this subtle movement, pay attention to where the lower back touches the floor and where it doesn't. Feel where there's rigidity, where there's tightness, where it seems like something is stuck. Don't try to force the release. Just observe, breathe, and continue with the micro movements. The body only lets go of what it feels safe to let go of. In a few minutes, you'll notice that the lower back begins to yield slightly, that contact with the ground expands, that the breath descends a little deeper. This is the sign that the fascia is responding, that the release portal has begun to open. The second movement is an ancestral breathing code that brings oxygenation and presence to the base of the spine. Still lying in the same position, place both hands over your lower back, one on each side, feeling the warmth of your palms against your skin or clothing. Close your eyes and breathe deeply through your nose, filling the abdomen first, then the chest. But here's the secret. As you breathe, mentally direct the air to your lower back, as if you could inflate that region from within. Imagine the breath can touch the base of the spine, expanding vertebra by vertebra. This directed breathing activates the ventral branch of the vagus nerve, the neural pathway that signals to the body that it's safe to slow down, that there's no imminent danger. When the air descends to the lower back, the autonomic nervous system interprets this as a sign that the threat has ceased, and it begins to deactivate the chronic alert state that kept the tissues compressed. Do this for at least 10 full breaths, always with a clear intention to feel the lower back expanding with each inhale. You'll notice that, little by little, the region that once felt rigid and locked starts to soften, to yield, to breathe along with you. This movement isn't just physiological, it's vibrational. You're teaching the body that there's another way to exist beyond defensive contraction, that it's possible to be supported without being perpetually on guard. With each breath that descends, you're undoing a bit of the memory of threat that was inscribed there. Continue until you feel that the lower back is no longer so dense, until you perceive that the inner weight has begun to shift. This may happen the first time, or it may take a few days of practice. Every body has its own response time, and there's nothing wrong with that. The third movement reconnects the lower back and the solar plexus, two regions that should be in constant conversation, but that, in the traumatized body, become isolated from each other. Remain lying down with knees bent, and place one hand on your lower back and the other on your solar plexus, that region just below the sternum in the center of the torso. Gently press both regions at the same time, creating a bridge of presence between them. Breathe slowly and feel both hands rising and falling together with the breath, as if they were synchronized. This simple gesture creates a deep neural reorganization. You're reminding the body that there is an inner axis connecting base and center. When the lower back and solar plexus resume communication, something shifts in the internal perception. The sensation that everything is going to collapse decreases. Posture stops being just a muscular effort and becomes supported by a deeper, almost invisible alignment. Keep both hands in this position for at least 5 minutes, breathing calmly, feeling the axis reorganize. Don't force anything, just maintain presence, intention, touch. You'll notice that the torso feels less heavy, that the spine finds a verticality that doesn't require as much effort as before. This is the internal support being restored. The fourth movement is the most important of all, because it isn't just technique, it's ritual. Still lying in the same position, remove your hands and let your arms rest at your sides. Now consciously press your lower back and kidney area into the floor, as if you were trying to flatten that part of the body against the ground. But as you do this, keep a very clear intention. You are returning to the earth the weight you carried for so long. This isn't an abstract image. It's a real gesture of giving back. The earth, according to Hermetic traditions, is the great receiver. It absorbs, transmutes, and reintegrates everything the human body can no longer sustain alone. Press the lower back against the ground for at least 3 minutes. Breathing deeply, repeating mentally or in a low voice, I return what is not mine to carry. I return the weight that did not begin with me. This symbolic gesture has a concrete physiological effect. By pressing the lower back against a solid surface, you activate deep pressure receptors that signal to the nervous system that there is external support, that you are not alone holding everything up. The somatic isolation, that perception that if I don't hold it, everything falls, begins to dissolve. The body finally understands that it can hand over part of the weight, that it doesn't have to be the only pillar. When you finish this fourth movement, something visceral happens. It might be a sudden feeling of lightness in the lower back. It might be a deep sigh that leaves without your control. It might be an emotion that rises without warning. All of this is a sign that the trauma has begun to move, to find an exit. Don't suppress anything that arises. If crying comes, cry. If trembling comes, let it tremble. If it's only a quiet relief, receive it with gratitude. Every response is valid. Every body releases in its own way. What matters is that you completed the entire code. The 4 movements in sequence, and the body received the message. It is safe to release now. These 4 movements form a complete ritual of somatic release that should be repeated daily, preferably upon waking or before bed, for at least 21 consecutive days. That's the time the nervous system needs to begin unlearning the pattern of chronic compression and to install a new pattern of supported presence. In the first days, you may notice only subtle changes. The lower back a little less rigid, the breath descending half a centimeter deeper, the posture collapsing less by the end of the day. But if you keep practicing, the changes accumulate and deepen. Over time, you'll notice that the visceral lower back pain that accompanied you for years begins to decrease in intensity and frequency. You'll notice that you can get out of bed without that initial seizing, that you can sit longer without feeling the base of your back grow heavy, that your posture stays upright without so much conscious effort. More than that, you'll feel an emotional shift, less irritability, less sense of being overwhelmed, more inner space to breathe and exist. This happens because the lower back, by releasing the deposited trauma, also releases all the emotional load that was compressed along with it. What you're doing with these 4 movements isn't fixing an error in the body. It's undoing an inheritance that was never your responsibility to carry alone. You're not treating poor posture or physical wear and tear. You're rewriting the vibrational language of your lower back, teaching it to function differently. The pain you felt wasn't a punishment, it was a request. The body was asking you to stop holding everything alone, to return what didn't belong to you, to allow the earth to absorb part of the weight. And now you know how to do that. The transformation doesn't happen only in the lower back. It travels through the entire body. When the base reorganizes, everything above reorganizes as well. Breath flows better, the chest opens, the throat relaxes, the jaw yields. You begin to notice that your whole life changes when the body stops operating in chronic collapse and returns to operating in supported presence. Projects that were stalled begin to move. Relationships that were tense find space to breathe. Creativity that was blocked begins to flow again. Because when the lower back breathes, life breathes along with it. When the pillar rises, the entire inner world reorganizes. And what once seemed impossible to change reveals itself, finally, as transformable. Lauren woke up every day with her lower back locked, as if something inside her had hardened overnight. At 47, a literature teacher in a public school, she carried more than books and papers to grade. She carried a rigidity in the base of her back that forced her to get out of bed in stages, bracing herself on the furniture, breathing slowly until she could stand upright. In the middle of classes, she needed to lean discreetly against the wall because her posture was giving way. Her torso felt heavy, and that dull ache in her lower back intensified until it became a sharp stab. She tried physical therapy, Pilates, chiropractic, but nothing reached the core of that pain. The discovery came in a conversation with a friend who studied ancestral somatic practices, who mentioned that certain chronic lower back pains were deposits of transgenerational trauma, memories the body inherited and kept compressed. Skeptical but desperate for relief, Lauren agreed to learn a sequence of 4 movements described as keys for fascial and nervous release. At first, it seemed too simple. Lie on the floor, make micro movements with the pelvis, breathe into the lower back with intention, press specific regions of the torso. But she decided to try it for 21 consecutive days upon waking, before even getting out of bed. On the 5th day, something changed. The morning rigidity had visibly decreased. On the 10th day, the sharp pain that showed up in the middle of class simply didn't come. And on the 15th day, while doing the 4th movement, pressing her lower back into the floor, she started to cry, not from sadness, but from relief, as if something very old had finally found a way out. This release needs to be sealed in the body through a repeatable gesture. The physical marker is simple: breath that descends to the base of the spine without effort, a sensation of space between the lumbar vertebrae, a less armored solar plexus, the signal gesture that anchors the new state. Whenever you notice your lower back beginning to contract, stop for 30 seconds, place one hand on your lower back and take 3 deep breaths, repeating mentally, "My lower back breathes. I return what is not mine." And whenever you feel you've veered off axis, when the pain returns strongly, when the rigidity comes back, you have a clear point of return. Lie down, do the 4 complete movements again, and seal the release by pressing the lower back into the ground with a conscious intention of giving back. That way, what Lauren discovered in her own flesh, you keep alive in your body as an embodied practice. The lower back was never just an anatomical region that hurts. It is the sacred place where the story of your lineage meets the present of your body. Every pain you felt there, every rigidity that locked your movements, every time your posture gave way and you needed to brace yourself, wasn't punishment or weakness. It was a clear, visceral, urgent request. Return what is not yours. Reorganize the base. Let the earth absorb what you no longer need to sustain alone. The 4 ancestral movements you learned are not techniques, they're language. You're teaching the body that there's another way to exist beyond chronic contraction, that it's possible to be supported with presence rather than only with effort. Bessel van der Kolk wrote that the body keeps the score. It holds everything the mind tried to forget. But what you've just discovered is that the body also knows how to release. It just needed the right code. God did not create the lower back to be a storage site for traumas that were never yours to begin with. He created the spine as a sacred axis, as a pillar that connects earth and sky, matter and spirit, history and possibility. When you press your lower back into the ground and consciously hand over the inherited weight, you are fulfilling a divine design. You are saying yes to reorganizing. You are accepting that you don't have to carry alone what was born of ancient stories. The transformation that began in your lower back will travel through your entire body, your entire life. You'll notice that projects that were stalled begin to move. Relationships that were tense find space to breathe. Creativity that was stuck starts to flow. Because when the base reorganizes, everything above reorganizes as well. When the pillar breathes, the entire inner world expands. The lower back pain you felt for so long wasn't punishment. It was the only way the body found to tell you it was time to stop carrying alone. And you answered with conscious movement, with somatic presence, with a gesture of surrender. Your lower back can finally go back to being what it was always meant to be, not the place where you hide trauma, but the living foundation of the existence you choose to create. If this video resonated with you, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any content that reconnects you with the sacred body. If you wish to directly support Inner Temple's mission and help bring this wisdom to more people who need to release the inherited weight, consider becoming a channel member. Your contribution keeps the flame of this ancestral and somatic knowledge portal alive. I want to know, how do you feel the trauma that weighs on your lower back begin to dissolve? Write in the comments. My lower back releases the inherited weight that is not mine to carry. This affirmation seals your presence. On the path of somatic reorganization, share this video with someone you know who carries chronic lower back pain and needs to discover that this pain can be released. And don't stop here. click on the screen and dive into another transformative video on the channel. Remember, the weight you carried in your lower back for years was never divine punishment. It was the body's most honest invitation for you to finally learn to return, to let go, to live without collapsing under traumas that never began with you.